Interested in investigation and security? Whether you are already a professional or you are in the beginning stages, take all of your classes at the National Investigative Training Academy. Choose from over 200 courses, all written and taught by experts in the field. The National Investigative Training Academy, or NITA, has offered high-level investigative and security training for over 12 years. Like live classes, NITA has those too. Sign up today for private investigation and security courses and use brand ambassador code B as in boy, A as in Adam, 2367. Take a look at investigativeacademy.com. You'll find the link in our show notes. Welcome to Crossing the Tape. I hope it's your favorite true crime podcast. It sure is ours.
Yes.
As always, I am one of your hosts, Hillary, and I am joined by my husband,
Brendan.
And today will be the second part of our last episode, which dealt with Santa Claus, a bank, a sack of money, and the 20s.
And now, hostages.
Yes. So please sign the crime scene log. We will give you a recap and join us for this story.
Yes, so, running down what we covered last time, these guys got together, decided they were going to take down the bank in Cisco, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
One of the locals decided he needed a disguise, so he opted for a Santa Claus suit.
Yes, and he was the only one in disguise.
So it's him and 3 other guys who were just normal looking.
Which, you know, in our last episode, the brains of it all, Marshall Ratliff said...
Santa.
Yeah. He had originally wanted to use his brother. So if his brother had done it with him, because he couldn't use his brother, he was back in jail. He was also a local.
Right,
so would he have been Santa, or would he have been Mrs. Claus, or would he have been an elf? Who knows?
Perhaps a reindeer.
That's true.
Maybe a snowman.
That'd be difficult.
Well, it's probably pretty warm.
Yeah. So,
we left off that they've now successfully,
in quotations,
robbed the bank. They ended up in a firefight with the cops outside. Tried to lead the patrons and employees from the bank outside to their getaway car, but a bunch of people scrambled. They did manage to get 2 young girls, and now they've got them as hostages.
Mm-hmm.
So, large exchange back and forth, bullets flying everywhere. Law enforcement wasn't giving up, especially now that there's 2 girls in danger of being taken by these maniacs. Now, they chose to have a shootout with the men in an alleyway, which, I mean, you do what you gotta do. But an alleyway could cause ricochets, crossfire, that bullets tend to deflect along walls.
Right, so depending on the width of the alleyway, it doesn't seem like a wise decision.
Yeah, it seems like the poor girls are going to be shredded, potentially.
They weren't, thankfully.
Yeah. But, unfortunately, during this fight, the police chief and another deputy were wounded. And the chief died that day. The deputy later in the hospital passed away in January. So he held on for a number of days, but succumbed to his injuries as well. Mm-hmm. Also injured was Davis, the cousin who was brought in last minute. Seems like he got a raw deal.
I know.
And Marshall Ratliff, the brains, Mr. Claus.
Right.
Due to the severity of the situation, the community formed a mob.
And it probably had to do with that reward, too.
Yes.
That we talked about last time.
We discussed before, the Texas Bankers Association decided $5,000 for anyone who shoots a bank robber in the commission of their crime.
Right.
That's about $90,000 in today's cash.
Yes. So I think that was a lot of... I think the people were just already kind of irritated about the whole situation anyway.
Right.
Plus the reward.
And,
so
yeah, now the chief of police has been shot.
Right.
The deputy's been shot. So they decided they'll take it into their own hands, and hey, maybe, there's 4 guys, that's $5,000 a piece. If they take care of them, they could split that up.
Right.
It's good money for everybody gets a piece.
Right.
So the angry mob went after the crooks to serve justice themselves, which reminds me a bit of how the original Night Stalker was caught.
Right.
As his photo ended up in the paper.
And he was on a bus.
People started recognizing him. He starts hot-footing it through neighborhoods, tries to steal a lady's car, gets beat with a 2x4.
Yeah. He was on a bus and then escaped the bus because people started noticing him. And then, like you said, running through yards, and then people just kept coming after him, which I thought was pretty good.
Surrounded and dove into the hands of a police officer to get him out of there because he was going to get torn apart. Mm-hmm. Now, these guys, they didn't run to the police, but they were running from this angry mob that was going to serve up some justice. They realized they didn't stand a chance in their current vehicle against the mob because their car tires had been shot out and they'd run out of gas.
Which, again...
Idiots.
They didn't think about it.
They thought they would just get the money, drive around the corner, and...
I guess.
Split it up and go their separate ways. So, the fellas improvised. They came across a young boy driving his family's car, believed to be an Oldsmobile, which, at the time, it was a Youngsmobile.
Uh-huh.
He allowed them to take the car, which, he wasn't going to put up a fight against Santa Claus and a bunch of armed goons.
Right.
But he kept the car keys. Smart move on his part.
Right.
That son of a gun. The robbers didn't notice that until they'd already packed up the new car and were ready to go. They had it all packed up, realized, shoot, no keys.
So, like...
Incredible that didn't come to mind first. He said, kid, get out of the car, we're taking it.
Yeah.
I said, okay, all right. He just walked off with the keys. Didn't come to mind for them until it was too late. Now, Plan B had already hit a huge snag. They left Lewis Davis in that second car, the Oldsmobile. Again, he was one of the ones who had been shot.
Yeah.
He was unconscious by this point because he's losing blood.
Right.
They still had the 2 young girls as hostages that they mentioned, that we had mentioned before. Not only did they leave Davis in that Oldsmobile, as they hopped back in the beat-up, low-on-gas, flat-tire car.
I know. Well, what was the point of that?
They were going to try to coast it back into town. But in addition to leaving Davis, because, screw it, we're not going to move him twice, they also left the money in the Oldsmobile. So they hopped back in the first car, and eventually that mob of citizens came upon Davis in the other vehicle. They found the money and took it back to the bank, which was very nice of them.
Yeah.
In total, the amount turned out to be, in today's money, well over $200,000. So all that trouble and strife for nothing but trouble. Mm-hmm. Davis didn't make it, later died from his injuries. No surprise, he was abandoned by the gang.
Yep.
Who were now on the run without even the cash.
Right. They're just trying to get away from the situation at this point.
Yeah, so even if they get away, they're still worse off than they were at the get-go.
Yeah.
Especially since Ratliff had been shot, but it doesn't sound like it was a terribly serious injury because he's still trucking along. Now, eventually, as they keep running, they had to let the two young girls go. Probably just dragging them down at that point.
Well, yeah.
And they don't need the leverage.
No.
They lost the money. Forget it.
Right. So they just let them go, and they kept going.
Yeah. They continued to try to escape. And they did so by stealing cars, I guess this time with the keys, as they got further away, and at times they took more hostages briefly.
Right. So what I read in my research was that they would just, as they were continuing in whatever direction they were going, they just, would steal a car, drive it for a bit, and then dump it, steal another car, and, once or twice, they just had the person in the car just, hey, drive us for an hour or two, and then, dump us off.
And we won't shoot you.
But they were, obviously it was kind of a hostage situation, because they're forcing the person to drive them.
Right.
But I thought it was funny that, another ironic thing is like, well, we're tired. And that was kind of how it came about. They'd steal cars, and then after a while, they're like, here, just just drive us,
Yeah. So word had already gotten around to the surrounding areas that these guys had committed the bank job and were on the run. So as they attempted to cross a river in Young County, Sheriff Foster spotted them. There were more shots fired, and all 3 robbers were hit this time.
And allegedly by one deputy.
I was going to say, it's just the sheriff who's
No,
out there?
he recruited a few others
he
later.
Had a few guys with him.
But it was alleged that one deputy shot all of them in
all
one go.
Pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. They continued to try to escape with what little they had left of their lives. I don't know if we cover it later, but I am picturing that Ratliff is still in the coat with the beard and the hat.
I never found anything like that, and I never
If he
found
ditched
exactly
the Santa clothes.
Right, and I never found exactly what their injuries were either.
Mm-hmm.
It just, they were shot, and I figured, his first injury was superficial since he was still going all this time.
Yeah.
And then, when the deputy shot them all in one go,
yeah,
I don't know if, they were, grazes or, obviously they're not fatal yet.
Right. Not too severe so far.
Right, and I couldn't find, what firearm they were carrying at that time. I mean, I guess I could have looked up that, but there was nothing about what kind of round it was, maybe it was only a .22.
Probably a small caliber revolver.
Yeah.
But the fact is now all 3 of them have taken a round. Ratliff's taken 2.
Right.
He may or may not still be wearing a bright red Santa suit.
Right. Who knows? I couldn't find any of that.
Making him the easy target.
I kind of think so, though, based on another piece of the investigation that we'll cover in a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I kind of have a feeling he still was somewhat conspicuous.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I couldn't find those details.
Well, they've been on the run now. It is December. He may have kept it
because
it's
cold.
Warmth. Yeah, he needed the coat.
Yeah.
But I think regardless, it's more fun to imagine these 2 goons and Santa Claus stealing cars and sneaking through the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
More shots fired. All 3 robbers hit, possibly by one deputy. They weren't dead, at least not yet. They continued to try to escape, but law enforcement had enough, of their antics, and they received air support to search for these guys, which is really something for 1927.
Yeah, and that also is what makes me think he was still wearing, the bright red suit, because if they're thinking, well, we can, try to use air support to find them, maybe he was still in his conspicuous getup.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that would be the law enforcement agency themselves, if they had a plane.
I don't know. I couldn't find that either.
It could totally, with the angry mob after him too, it could be that a local farmer with his crop dusting plane.
Right, or even just, local.
Or even from the military base nearest. Yeah. Can you do a couple of flyovers, look for an idiot in a bright red coat?
Right.
But regardless, they've got guys on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That mob is still circling around.
Right.
There's planes flying over looking for these morons. Now, as they continue their search, we will hear a bit from Taction USA. Taction USA is your go-to source for crime scene and evidence collection supplies. Taction USA offers quality products all designed and tested by active duty first responders and investigators. With no minimum order, you can order as much or as little as you need. Ordering is fast with no hassle attached. Check out TactionUSA.com today and find the quality and quantity you need when it comes to crime scene and evidence collection supplies. That's TactionUSA.com, or look for the link in our show notes and Facebook posts. Eventually, all 3 robbers were caught. By this point, they'd sustained so many injuries, they really didn't put up a fight. It had been icy and cold, they had no food or water, and they're all bleeding.
Right.
Bleeding out to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys are like cockroaches. They were placed on trial, and Henry Helms, who had been identified as the shooter who killed the sheriff and deputy back in Cisco, the judge decided to award him the death penalty. and he was executed via the electric chair in 1929.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Hill was given 99 years, but he was paroled after about 10.
Yeah.
How nice.
I know.
For him. He changed his name and was never heard from again, so he probably learned a little bit of his lesson.
Yeah, I don't know, but we'll never know because we don't know what his new name was.
Yeah, he might have gone on to do the same thing.
Yeah, who knows?
Marshall Ratliff was given 99 years in prison at first, but a witness stated he had also shot the law enforcement officers who died that day, and he was given the death penalty for that.
Mm-hmm.
He still tried to get out of his sentence, first by appealing the case, and when that didn't work, he decided to plead insanity, and he actually began to act crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta sell the act. Act being the key word here. However, no one bought into it, so he resorted to escaping. He ended up injuring his accomplice in the escape, and by the end, someone else was dead as well.
Right. It was kind of like not a riot in prison, but, big escape. When he encountered people, he just, took them out or injured them.
Did what he had to do. So he did get out, managed to escape at the time, but he was caught by a literal lynch mob who outright killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Their first attempt to hang him didn't work, so they tried again and were successful the second time. Maybe the mob was a little overzealous.
Yeah, and I think, there were kind of different reports about it, but it's like they tried to hang him, it didn't work, and so one was they tried to hang him again and it worked, or they pulled him down and just strangled him. Either way, he was dead.
Yeah, regardless, the mob took care of him. Sounds like the citizens of Texas in the 1920s didn't mess around.
Right.
So, in the end, the gang had murdered about 6 people, injured numerous others, all to either end up in prison or dead with no money to show for it.
Right. Except for the one guy, and we really don't know what it,
for Robert Hill, who changed his name to something, and
we have no idea.
He did serve 10 years, but who knows what happened to him after that.
Right.
So there you have the story of the largest manhunt in Texas history, and it all stemmed from one bad Santa.
Yep.
So, we wish you a good Santa.
a Merry
happy
Christmas.
Holidays. Please join us again next time where we'll have a mini episode with a little more Christmas, not fun, death. But it is Christmas.
Right.
Sign the crime scene log on your way out.
And next time we have a full episode will be next year.
Yes, in 2025. So long.
Stay safe.
511 has collaborated with the best tactical teams around to develop their VXI product line. This collaboration has resulted in top-of-the-line gear for not only SWAT operators, but all first responders, outdoorsmen, hunters, and anyone who will only accept the best gear available. I had a chance to try out the new Sigurd shirt. Not only does it look great, but it feels great as well. The Sigurd shirt features 511's CryoTac technology, guaranteeing you'll stay dry and cool. The Sigurd shirt can be worn comfortably under a plate carrier, or on its own as a classy look at your next barbecue. This collared shirt won't be out of place at the shooting range or the golf course, ensuring you'll feel comfortable in any setting. Get your Sigurd shirt from 511 Tactical today.